Here, I'm gonna see if it's gonna work. We are going to give it a shot. There we go. I'm at Westech Performance. Make sure there's no like top secret stuff here. We'll go over here. I don't think that there is. Excuse me. That's just their schedule. So I am at Westech Performance. I've got the motor up on the excuse me, motor up on the dyno, and we're in the V6. The thumbnail that you're looking at is the long tube headers for, because life is the way life is. I had the V6 up there, which is 3/4 of a V8. The problem is that the headers that they make for those, for the various applications, they don't want to fit on the dyno. They don't want to fit the bell housing and stuff. So we had to, what I did was do a forward facing one, and when we aimed them forward, it worked fine. I was able to get the shorty headers on there, and then I just made exhaust for I made an exhaust for the shorty headers, and that worked out fine. We were able to run them in the normal orientation. But with the long tube headers, I had to face them forward, and then you can see in the thumbnail, I made U-bends, and so we could route the exhaust back toward the back, because that's where the evacuation fans are. So the air comes in from the front on either side of the engine. It enters in the front and then exits out the rear. So we want to aim the exhaust back to the back, so which is cool. So the way to get around all that is a little bit of welding. So I like when I come down to Westech, I get to do some welding. That was fun. It's just all, it's all just very time consuming. It'd be nice just to put the headers on, put a collector extension on it, and, although this way I have to say it's interesting because with the U-bends, we had fairly lengthy pieces of exhaust on the U-bends, as you can see, more kind of simulating a complete exhaust, although we did not have mufflers on it. Looking at the power levels, the mufflers are not going to hurt this motor at all. They're not going to hurt the power output of that V6. So it's pretty cool. My goal for all of this was to come down and just get that motor running. That's what I want to do. I want to get all of these motors, the slant 6 and all these things. I just want to make them so they're runners. So get them together with some kind of configuration. I have a 400 small block there too that I just want to get them all running so that they're all runners. When they're running, then you can come in and do testing, and I don't have to bug Eric 100 times for, hey, how do I hook this up? How do we make this work? We had to do that on the mystery motor today, which is pretty cool. But naturally, he got it all done, and we got it. So I've got some stuff. I think that the next deal I'm going to do, I think it's probably the 400. So I want to get the 400. Like I said, just want to get them all running. It doesn't matter that I have to do 15 different things with them, different configurations and all that stuff. My goal is to make all the motors that I have in my storage areas and stuff, just get them all to be runners. Arizona's in the house. So I got a question for you. I was thinking about this while I was over at the store grabbing something from the store. So if you're at a store, let me know in the comments, what kind of person are you? And this is not a good or bad thing. I just want to know how people's answer to this. I want to know how they react. So if you go into a store like a convenience store, you go into 7-Eleven or whatever convenience store, or a gas station in this case, you go in there and let's say you grab something to drink. It seems like there's two kinds of people. The one kind of person, and this is for some reason this is how I feel, and I don't know why that this is, because there are a lot of other things where I don't feel this way. But the way I feel about it, if I go and grab something from the refrigerated section or whatever, get something, get frosty cold beverage, I bring it up to the counter and I pay for it. Would you start drinking that knowing that you're going to pay for it, like on your way up there if you were thirsty? Would you just open it and then pay for it and having already had a drink? Or this is the way that I am. I wouldn't drink anything like that until after I pay for it. So when I go up, until I go up and pay for it, it's not mine. It's still the store's. Again, this is my rationale. I'm not saying that this is right or wrong, but that's my rationale. So as soon as I go up there and I pay for it, as soon as I do that, then I drink it. That's when the transaction has taken place. You know, again, I don't know if this is the unconscious rationale, but I've given them the money, they've given me the product, now I bought this thing, now it's mine, now I can do whatever I want with it, I can throw it around or whatever, or have a drink with, and I don't like walk around and drink something and then pay for it. I don't know, I don't do that. So let me know in the comments if which do you guys do that? And again, like I said, I'm not saying anything negative about somebody that grabs something to drink it and walks up there and says here and is paying for it. You know, it's a thing, it's for sale, you bought it, you had a drink beforehand or whatever. You know, just let me know in the comments. It just was an interesting thing while I was sitting there paying that I thought, you know what, I wonder how people feel about that. And I wonder if that's some sort of weird, like, you know, personality indication or something, some test, some psychological test. I spent a lot of time over at the wrecking yards, not today, luckily I didn't have to go today. It's been very, very hot there. So going there and walking around the yard carrying this time when I went, or yesterday and the day before when I went to get the stuff for the V6, I got one of the water buckets that we drain the water out of the blocks into and filled it full of the tools that I thought would be necessary for the thing that I was going to do. A couple of cool things happened is one, I found a number of the things that I was looking for, different versions of this filter adapter. And then I brought all the tools I thought were necessary, but I didn't bring the one tool that was necessary. And the interesting thing about this, and this is what experience is. So when you learn these things particularly about new engine configurations, and a lot of these things are very, very specific to whatever the thing is that you're working on. So there were guys that are experts in this. So if I could have called Joe Schmo, that's the 4.3 liter expert, and he would have to know not only that, yeah, the 4.3, you know, you can do this and this and this. You'd have to know very like detailed, specific things, because if I asked him what's the oil filter adapter like, there's like 4 or 5 or 6 different ones. So if somebody out there was sharp enough to know all of those variations, because some of them is just you screw the filter on. That's the one that I ended up getting. That's the one that only takes one tool. You just put the Allen up there. I put a little extension on it because it was fairly tight. I undid that. You take it off, you put it back on. I put the filter up. It's out of the way of everything. It doesn't hit the header. Most of the other ones were problematic with header configurations. And a lot of the other ones had either a remote filter and or an oil cooler assembly line. Mine, the one that was on the motor when I bought it, again, I didn't know if the motor was a runner or not. It looked like it was brand new. I don't think that now looking at this, the way that it looked when I put it up on the dyno, without the intake manifold on there, obviously without the oil filter assembly on there, I don't think that motor's ever been run. I drained a little bit of oil out of it. There was no markings in any of not in the intake ports, not in the exhaust ports. There's nothing on the spark plugs. I think that this was like another one of those, hey, pulled off the assembly line, and it's just sat for years and years and years because nobody ever ran it. And so, and in fact, the owner of Westech even commented when I wheeled that thing out with a new intake manifold, and I ran a very cool Holley Brawler carburetor. So shout out to the Holley guys, shout out to the AFR guys, and to Brian Tooley Racing for always helping out. But when I wheeled it up there, he goes, and then this should tell you what I normally bring in. He said, that's a really nice motor. That's a really clean one. That looks like it's brand new, because it had a new distributor, a new intake manifold. And tomorrow we're going to talk about the issues that I had with the distributor on this thing, on the V6. I'm going to show you. In fact, the thumbnail will be the issue that I had. And I want your guys' input in this, because I haven't seen this before. I thought I knew what it was when I took the distributor out, but it turned out not to be that. So let me know. You'll be able to know that tomorrow. But it had all these new things on it, and so I wheeled it up because I'm getting ready to take it back to my storage thing. And the owner said, "Man, that's a nice looking motor. That thing was brand new." I said, "Yeah, that's that V6 that I bought from you guys." He goes, "Oh, that's too nice. You probably shouldn't have something like that." I'm like, I know, I get that. But when I went and got the composite valve covers, which I think one of my favorite things about the 4.3 liter V6, I like those composite valve covers, just like I like that. I saw a set over there. Now that I don't want a tune port motor, there was a tune port Corvette motor over there, a tune port Corvette, and it had the cool the cool valve covers that I like. So those are nice, and all of that was there, and it's there when I don't need it. Although I did see a number of really good LSs that would be cool to have if you had unlimited amount of room that you could fill up with used LS motors. That would be awesome. But spending time over there when it's 100 degrees or whatever, laying in the dirt and all this stuff. One of the days I was there, I didn't see very many people. I don't know if it was too hot or whatever. But it was a weekend day. I was surprised. But the next day, there were more people there. On Sunday, there were more people there. But even still, there's not, there's a few hardcore guys that were, I saw guys taking out, big pieces, heavy pieces, transmissions and engines and stuff. Most of the other guys are walking around. In fact, I was walking by these two young kids, and they were like way more dressed up than I thought people should be when they're going to a wrecking yard. Because I don't know if you're anything like me, I'm rolling around in the dirt. I'm an absolute mess when I go to the wrecking yard, and I just hope, like that LKQ that I went to get all of those parts, they have like wash stations, which is awesome because they have soap in the containers, and they have the little pumps, the little foot pumps that you push to have the water flow. But it's nice to be able to get like at least some of it. I mean, I get stuff on the back of my head and on my shirt and everything because I'm laying on the ground. You try to get the, if you're a real wrecking yard guy, you grab the rear spare tire cover or floor mats or anything that you can to act as your as your mat to lay down in, and to get the oil filter and the adapters off. I had to do that. You had to. You've got to get underneath the vehicle and to get to that stuff. You can't really access it. But it all worked out good. But still walking around with my bucket full of stuff, lots of tools, unnecessary tools as it turned out, but you don't know, then that's why you take them there. So the walking around with the tools, going through all of the rows, because I just like to look at the stuff anyways. I should have filmed it, but I didn't. But I might go back and do some filming so we can talk about all of the cool stuff. But walking around out there when it's that hot and working on stuff, it's obviously, as it showed, that's not for everybody. But if you do go that, and I know a lot of guys out there do, make sure to hydrate. It's very important. So I'm excited that 2 of the motors are running. That's good news. Every time I come down to do testing at Westech, I'm going to be coming down more often, and I'm going to be getting motors done, getting them so that they're runners, so that they work, and so that they can be used, for test purposes. And I want to get the Pontiac run, the 350. I'd like to run it with a tri-power setup. We'll see. I want to get the 3800 done. I want to get the Big Bang done on that. That'll be the next Big Bang that I do. I also want to get the Dodge Magnum done. All I want to do is, because we did the piston flip in that thing, I have to take it back apart and put it back to its original orientation, and then put the heads back on and put springs on, thanks to the gentleman who sent me the springs. Put the springs on it, and then I can do a cam swap, and then it gets boost. That's my goal for the Dodge, and I want to do that. I want to have boost go into the kegger. Although, if you're watching this channel, you kind of know what's going to happen. The kegger's a very long runner. It's it's Dodge's version kind of a tune port motor, or any of these long runner EFI deals. So we know what it does, and boost is going to accentuate that. It's going to multiply that. So maybe the 360 with the EFI on it, and then a turbo on it. It should be. I'm thinking it's going to be very, very torquey. And then I want to run the boot. I was looking at the data today on the 3800 stuff with the turbo, and I should have just kept that together and ran it the way that it was. Although it didn't have ring gap in it yet, so it had to come apart. The ring gap's already done on it, so it really just needs to go back together. And I did the thing that I tell people not to do. I tried to make it, like a lot better. Oh, well, I got to do this, and I got to do this, and I got to do this. Really, all I had to do is turn the boost up, put ring gap in it, and turn the boost up, and it would have been for a big bang thing, would have been fine. It would have definitely got me to where we needed to go to find out whatever the breaking point was. All of that would have worked out. It would have been just fine. But instead, no, I got to get a better camshaft. I got to get a different intake manifold. I got to get different heads, all of that stuff. So we'll see what you guys got going on. And I'm happy that the feed is good here at Westech now. That I'm standing right next to the router, or sitting right next to the router. Danny, Jeff, Hefe, Eric. Hopefully you haven't got ads. Todd, what's going on? Oh, you're out. David, you're out at the port? Is that out by... Vortec used to be out there, and Borla and Magnus, and weren't there a bunch of guys out there? Jose, Ragtop, what's going on? Arizona's in the house. Be interested in seeing how much power a stroker crank for the 4.3 adds. Well, here's what you do. It's an easy multiplier. So if you take the current power output and divide it by 4.3, and then multiply it by however big the new stroker takes it to, 5 liter or whatever, 4.8 liter, whatever it does, then you can get an idea on, as long as you continue with that specific output, you can get kind of an idea on what it will do. I'm not going to do a stroker on the 4.3 though. So I'm scrolling back, scrolling. Here we go. A blue drink, those are good. Stroker crank. No, drink after I pay. I agree with you. I've drunk the whole drink before paying. Nice. These Richard's line in the sand. Are you down in Miraloma? I am. Depends on how thirsty I am. Pay first. I'm not a huge hurry to get the drink anyway. I can wait till after I paid. I also like to have it be cold. So I just like what you do with ice cream when you go shopping. I select that last. Drinking before paying is cringy, but eating grapes while shopping, that's a different story. Depends on how thirsty I am. Pay the drink. There are two kinds of people in the world. This is the people on lists and those who don't. Nice. Yes, I'm thirsty enough. Card reader's out. I will drink it even while shopping for other things, and I always pay for it. Never a problem. Feel obliged to drink from the pour your own drink before paying. I'm with you. I don't know what the Abdullah, I don't know what that is. It's not translated. I've eaten grapes before. I always pay first. My wife takes so long. I need a drink. You gotta go over to the bar. Todd, I will eat one grape, then you'll buy a bag of them. So you gotta test it, right? It's just like test driving. Filters use a 4x4 filter. It's bigger. Use it on my adapter with the Pro Charger Forge 4.3 liter. I took a look at a couple of different trucks and Blazers. I honestly didn't look to see if they were 4-wheel drive or not, or at least I don't remember. I just inherited a super low mileage GTP. I'm about to start building the stock supercharger setup and max it out, then move to a turbo. Just move to the turbo right away. Todd sending out flower pictures. I want to see how long it takes for the 1465 to grenade. Yeah, you can make pretty good power with those 3800s, but I don't think that 65 is going to like it too much. Family, you got your 5.3 out of the truck today. Started taking it apart. Nice. Want to open a package of cookies or anything? I don't think I'd do that either. Building an odd fire Forge 4.3 with a turbo. Should do a Garrett or a Bullseye turbo. And are you trying to max it out to see what? I don't know which one of those. I don't know which turbo you're talking about or which two you're talking about. Which kind of power you're trying to make. I don't think it'd be disappointed with either one of those choices. Although they're going to be pretty spendy. I have not seen burns. My beverage doesn't get drank until I paid for it. Yeah, you don't want your card not to work. That's true. Oh, you have a 5.3 for the truck. Need a radiator for my truck. Where are you at? What's happening with the GLHS? It needs to go get picked up. Yeah, Todd, there should be a lot of good radiators out there. Haven't seen burns in almost a year. Get around $200. Today I bought coffee that is sold at the church. That's cash only. That's one of the, who is saying that that's one of the things that as a man you should always have cash? I don't know. I think it should be anybody, but did you ever get heads for the 3800? Yeah, I sold a set of heads to JPL, but I think it's JLP or JPL. It's not Jet Propulsion Labs, I don't think. But he said that they had a crack in them between the valves, so I gave him his money back and got those back. So those are the ones I'm going to run. Turbo Monza. $139 is a good deal. Eric, no ads yet? Maybe because it's a mobile, maybe? Just watch 408 versus 468 versus 495. Let me wait to see the numbers out of the 408 with such a mild cam. Oh yeah, on the little cam test. That's one of my favorite things is putting that small cam in there on the 408. Get away, what's going on? I had heard a noise from the top end while driving. My truck I pulled the motor apart, spinning the crank, and don't hear anything. That's what happens when you take the motor out and you spin it. It hides. My 4.3 liters in desperate need of headers. I'm surprised there isn't more options for them. And they're not cheap either. I hear something loose like bearings or something. Well, a bearing is not going to be loose. I mean, if it's loose, you're going to, like a connecting rod, you're going to get rod knock. BTR or Texas Speed. You're looking for a cam, Ricky? I think the drink before you pay thing is the same thing as you put your shopping cart back. Yeah, I always do that. That's just common courtesy. You're going to do more throttle body or MAF sensor size comparisons paired with big intakes. I can. The problem becomes putting a small throttle body on a big intake opening, or obviously vice versa. On a 4.3 Vortec, you have to mill the valve guides down to accommodate a higher lift cam. I don't remember if they're like the V8 stuff, then yes. Would a 4.3 cam technically be a 3/4 race cam? It would. Dan, did I tell you that, were you on when I talked about the guys from Westech here? In fact, I should take a photo of it. The guys from Westech, when we were cleaning, found a Pontiac 4.3 liter aluminum head. So it had to be from when one of the guys here wrote a book, I think, on 4.3s way back. And I think that that's what it was. Unfortunately, he only has one of them. Yeah, the fan is for the that you might hear in the background is for the computer. The cam that I was gonna put in was a 210, 218 or something like that. Wheel motors for sale. I don't. I don't really have any shops to recommend. 62 Garrett 59 millimeter BMW for bullseye. All the guys you mentioned are Ventura and Oxnard, ARP is in Oxnard, and Willwoods and Camarillo. Cool. What do you recommend for oxygen sensors, turbo LS stuff? Got places multiple sensors, but didn't know if I showed more than one using a standalone ECM that came with 2 sensors. Are you just taking, is it a single turbo deal? We usually just take a reading after the turbo. Funny bike, you're watching Celtic Grave stuff in France. They've got a lot of stuff in the catacombs down below. Will the Pontiac head for your sprint engine? No, I don't think so. I can't remember if you had CNC ported heads for sale. I don't, and I didn't. These were hand ported. Richard, is it true that turbo engines like more exhaust? They like bigger exhaust after the turbo, but not exhaust necessarily in terms of duration for a camshaft. That's not necessarily. Is there any turbo upgrade going into the GLS to take advantage of the head? There's nothing on the GLHS other than the stock head and a stock turbo. I can't Prestige. I can't do a poll on the because I'm mobile. You should do how to build a 302, and at the end put it in your Fox. That would be good. The stuff in Australia is usually convict hewn sandstone, 200 years old at the most. I think that the indigenous people of Australia probably would think differently about that. They've probably been there for thousands of years. My O2 sensor is located before my turbo. Todd, it probably shouldn't be. You're going to get a lot of pressure and temperature there. We always have it after the turbo. 76 millimeter turbo is good for 700 to 800 wheel horsepower on a 6 liter. I have a 232, 240 cam. Small cam with boost. Yeah, 800 wheel horsepower. If you have a, you don't need a 232 cam in a. Is that a 6 liter? Yeah, if you have a 6 liter. With that cam that I have, something like that, you could do it with a low buck truck camshaft in a 6 liter. But you could also do it with that 219 cam that I have. That would easily do it. You don't need a 230 cam with a turbo to do that. What about long tube headers on a turbo application? Yes. You bought a 300 inline 6? Cool. I like those intake manifolds. An Indian jewelry that traveled all the way to central France and buried before Rome was a thing in France. There's a lot of cool stuff that they're finding. I love all the discoveries like in the rainforest from the ground penetrating radar that they're doing. There's lots of good stuff. It is as gutless as advertised, that 6-cylinder. Yeah, it's not supposed to be a powerhouse, but it makes all that torque. Aegis and Terra Australis traded with the ancient Egyptians. Or the Anunnaki. Any plans to play the 2.7 Chevy? No, I still have the 4.2 that's not even together anymore. Yeah, more 8.1 content will definitely happen. If you're asking what oxygen sensor, the Bosch, part number, LSU 4.9 lambda, wideband 02. Used for wideband meters. I think that they were using NTK stuff for a while. It Prestige, no torque on it. It's supposed to be just nothing but torque. So I have to weld a bung for my O2 sensor in my tubes. It leans my intake. Leading to the intake. I don't know where your turbo is, but whatever the exhaust is coming out of your turbo that runs back to the back of the truck, then that's where it needs to go. El Camino, I don't know what you're getting at there. Yeah, brakes. You'll be much happier with a smaller cam and boost than you than you will be with a bigger cam. Prestige, does that stock exhaust manifold on that force on the 5-liter 6-cylinder? Does it exit? Does it have 2 exits, and then so you just run dual exhaust after that? Gonna put high flows. Yeah, in the late model GM trucks. I thought David Visor did work to the head. He did work to a head, which I have. I have a number of different GLHS heads, or 2.2, 2.5 Dodge heads. And David's is one of them, but that's not on that motor. That motor is all stock. It's 100% stock, so that I can get it smogged. I've watched many of your tests and don't recall you testing batch fire versus sequential. Have you done that? Yes, I use a Motec with sequential and desert racing. It seems like we get a little better fuel mileage. I've never measured fuel mileage, but you definitely can get better fuel mileage if you are trimming all of the cylinders. And I have a video up where we ran the same intake manifold. We ran it carbureted, we ran it with batch fire, we ran it with sequential, then we ran it with sequential and individual cylinder tuning. And all of that stuff is up there and you can kind of see. But, you know, true sequential with individual cylinder tuning should be able to get you really good fuel mileage. Listening to you while I do some work on the Volvo 240, I like that. Not the cold side, yeah. Yeah, Todd, just the exhaust exiting the turbo, just anywhere on that. We usually put it a foot or more away from that, but yeah, as long as it's sealed and getting a good reading. The stock is dual 2.2 1/4 into a Y-cat. I'm going to do true dual 2.5s into probably an H-style Flowmaster and out the side. Cool. Watched the carb and EFI video yesterday. Definitely a good one. There's a lot of data there, and it surprised me and disappointed me at the same time, because that one I thought for sure okay, look how far off the air fuel is in all the different cylinders. It's off by a lot. And so when we go in and make them all the same, we're going to be heroes and make lots of power. But as we found out more times than not, and we found out with the V6, the 4.3 liter in carbureted form, that they're not terribly sensitive to air fuel as long as you're in, you know, if you're 9 to 1, it can be problematic. But if you're 11, 11 and a half, 12, 12 and a half, if you're somewhere in there, especially on the carbureted stuff, it seems to work pretty well. I can roll. It's a short exhaust. It's like maybe 1.5 feet long. It goes right out my fender. Okay. Yeah, that will be a problem for, I don't know how much you're daily driving that thing. There needs to be some exhaust length after the tube only for low speed metering. So idle and cruise and stuff. Because what you have is you'll have exhaust or air come back up the pipe. So if you put it near the end of the pipe, you don't get a good reading. You get a good reading like at wide open throttle when all the exhaust is going past it. But when you're idling around and stuff, the signal's not going to be good. So it needs to be, far enough away from the end that you get a good signal with low exhaust volume. That's why I'm trying to decide running multiple O2 sensors after the single turbo. Just one after. Okay, yeah, you can do that. The single sensor after the turbo, if you have a single turbo, if you have a Y into a single turbo, will give you an average reading of all the cylinders. Ideally, if you have a tubular exhaust on both sides of your V8 and then a crossover feeding the turbo, and if you could take O2 readings out of every cylinder, then you can adjust what's going on. The problem is on a turbo combination at wide open throttle, coming out of the exhaust, it's going to be pretty hot because the timing is less. There's going to get a lot of burn in between there and the turbo, and that portion of the exhaust is going to get really hot. Tim, is it at least a pizza? I mean, running like 3 feet, maybe 4 out behind the front tire through the fender. Yeah, like I said, if you put it within 1 foot of the turbo, that would help cool it off a little bit. But it's, if it's 4 feet and it's 1 foot away from the turbo, you still got 3 feet of tubing. It should work good. +1 snapped flywheel bolts. We haven't had that issue on a miss shift or something. I think the boom tubes exiting under the passenger side door sound pretty good, especially on an 800 horsepower SP2. Would the SP2 versions of those motors make that much power? What did a ported SP2 head flow, Dan? I don't know if I've ever seen. Westech used to have a big binder of all of the flow data. In fact, I should probably make copies of that if they still have that here, because they had a lot of airflow data in that book. Because everything that they flow tested, back in the day, we flow tested hundreds of cylinder heads. And that's a lot of good data to have. Because otherwise it just goes away. Although maybe in another 10 or 20 years, people are not going to care what a set of 882 small block Chevy heads flow. Matthew, I've learned so much from you. Now it's motor swap time. Twin turbo fed M90 on a Jeep 4.7 liter HO with a pair of stage 3 cams. Cool. You have that on there running around right now? That's awesome. Dustin, I can't do a poll because I'm on my phone. The most I saw, 430 CFM. That's still a lot. That's more than enough to support 800 plus horsepower. I'm not finding it, but air could flow around the spacer. It looked like it was just made of 4 round tubes. I don't know what your question was or what your comment was. Are you talking about some sort of carb spacer or something? I just don't know. That's cool. Only had one flywheel let go. I've only seen that happen one time. Not on the dyno. I've seen it happen. I saw it happen on the street. Yeah, carb spacer. Want to build a twin turbo R07. You see the SB2 stuff, but not the R07. I think Westech had one of those here. Not in the truck. I'm actually in Westech. I'm just in one of the offices because now I can get a decent signal. My friend and I were just talking about how both of our 4th gen F bodies are now considered antiques and will be considered slow by today's standard when they were stock. I know, my 5-liter Mustang's the same way. I remember when somebody first uttered the words that I'm restoring my 5-liter Mustang. I'm like, really? That's what it's come to? Probably next month I want to pair it with an AX15. Is that going to be strong enough? Top alcohol Hemis heads flow 700. They certainly put all of their cylinder head flow to good use. Secret Westech back room. Yeah, this is just one of the offices. Looks like some pressure plate fingers are missing. That's not good. You want to have all your fingers and toes. Found an R07 engine block and a set of heads. Just trying to source all the other parts is difficult. Yeah, piecemealing that kind of stuff is really, really hard. You can literally nickel and dime yourself into bankruptcy, basically. I can't believe how much different the exhaust note changed, how much different the exhaust note was, and how much it changed going from the shorty headers and exhaust to the long tubes. Oh, and exhaust. That will be an interesting conversation. I need to measure it to be sure. I think with the shorty headers, the opening on the shorty headers is not very big. I also use, I want to verify this, but I'm pretty sure I use 2.5-inch exhaust to make the exhaust sections for the shorty headers. And I think the long tubes stepped up to 3, but I'm going to write myself a note, take a look at that and see. I think that the exhaust was bigger with the headers. Got myself a note. I'm all good. Nothing but power. And I felt right at home because my buddy Evan, he was running a 4.8 liter over on the other dyno, which is super cool. Same with carbon EFI, they sound totally different. Did the audio transition into a better or worse note? I don't know. I was wearing headphones on them because there's no mufflers on them. I would kind of have to hear them to see which one I liked better. Hear them a little better. You can definitely tell it was different. I ran a 1286 when it was stock. Now it runs 1080s with a 125 shot. Cool. What are you working on at Westech? A 4.3 liter V6. Love to see some 2-stroke straight 6 and V8 gas engines from the 50s converted to premix and EFI. EFI and HT triple added power on my drag bike. Cool. 6.1 liter heads on a 5.7. Does it need a 6.1 intake or could I go aftermarket? Who makes a good aftermarket intake for a Hemi? will fit a 6.1. Do you have the 6.1 SRT8 intake manifold? That will definitely go on there. I have interchanged the manifolds and heads, maybe early on, not knowing that I should or shouldn't have been able to do that. We just did it anyway. I'm trying to think of the aftermarket ones. Almost everything out there is going to be a short runner deal, I think. Post-it note's going to add 27 horsepower. Most of the RS7 stuff is pretty specialized and doesn't interchange. Yeah, that's the problem with getting specific stuff. Is I look at all of the how nicely done those cup motors are, because Westech has had a few of them here that they've run, and the detail on them and stuff is just amazing. A nice set of diamond pistons for alcohol ordered by Alan Johnson's car, and they changed bore and didn't use them. If anybody wants to buy a set, Danny's got some for sale. He's got my mild build 4.3 liter fired up yesterday. Super excited, but I wish they made long tubes to fit the GMT 400s. A pre-Eagle 5.7. Just want to upgrade the top end. You can port the 5.7 heads. Need a video of a Texas Speed Torquer V4 cam on a 5.3 with stock 706 heads. It seems like an awful lot of camshaft for a stock 706 head. The turbochargers came out with the Dodge Stealth RT from Junkyard, had them rebuilt and run straight pipes. Now should I run a set of mufflers for a little bit of back pressure? You don't need back pressure in any situation. Back pressure is bad. Victor Harbor, South Australia. Put a 3800 EFI turbo and Turbo Hydro 700 in my 54 Chevy. Very nice. Is the 3800 the supercharged version, or is it the NA version? How far off are the ports? We ran the SRT8 aluminum intake manifold on the 5.7 heads, and the manifold did fairly well. It did exactly what I expected. It made less low-speed power and more top-end power than the truck manifold or the Magnum, composite car manifold. So it kind of did what I expected. Probably would have been a good idea for me to check the port alignment on that. Just not the other way around. Just an NA out of a local Holden Commodore. Okay. What about the port issue? I don't know. That's the thing. I didn't know that was actually a problem at the time that I ran it. I thought, hey, they're all Hemi heads. That's all interchangeable stuff. That's why you try stuff. Let's show up and see what happens. It's always those things that people tell you will never work. So for the Torquer V4, what stock head would you recommend for a 5.3? I don't know. Why don't you tell me what the specs are on that Torquer V4? Salvador. So the gasket issue or the available real estate between them is a problem. Richard, do you know if have any performance cams or intakes for a V6 Chrysler? I don't. I know nothing about that motor. I've never looked into it at all. Parts aren't the same. On the small block Chevy, they're right next to each other. On the 4.3, they're a few inches apart. All right, Cam, we'll see you later. Does a 6.1 liter have the variable vane intake manifold on? No, it was just a cast aluminum deal. It was a shorter runner version, looked similar to the Magnum manifold, the composite one, but was more performance oriented. They didn't have the dual runner intake manifold so much later than that. I called those other Hemis Gen 4 Hemis because they're so different, but people get mad at me when I do that. All right, Todd, we'll see you later, man. Michael, what's going on, man? Just in time to, almost time to see us leave. V6 looks like a chopped off 5.7. Yeah, it is. It's the blower stuff bolts onto the front. That's all the same. When did they start the dual runner intake on the Hemis? I don't know. I don't know what year they started. Because we ran one here, or I should say Freiberger and those guys ran one. No performance cams exist for the Chrysler V6. You can always have one ground. I mean, you regrinds. Regrinds for life, and then boost. 231, 234, 11. That's a big camshaft. Do you want that big of a camshaft, or are you racing this thing? It would certainly do better with ported heads on it. Just need to pull the V6 and put Hemi in, yep. Have you ever ran 2.3 liter Lima motors? No, I saw a couple of them at the Ontario LK Cube at the Pick Parts place. I saw a couple of those, but I've not run one on the engine dyno, only on the chassis dyno. We did a lot of chassis dyno with the SVO turbo Mustang with Dave from Tiny Avenger. 2015 5.7 Hemi cars have them. Only 6.4. I never had them. Like 6.4 Hemis. 5.7 Grand Cherokee also did not have dual runners. 5.7 Hemi trucks and 6.4s have dual runner intake manifolds. 6.4 Grand Cherokees. I remember having to explain to the guys on the web forums why V6 engines don't want 180-degree headers. I can tell you that the long tube headers did not do what I expected the long tube headers to do. They did not cooperate. A 4.7 liter VDAP ability, full BTR top bottom end with performance crank. BTR sells stuff for a 4.7 liter. Do you think 1 3/4 headers are large enough for a single turbo 4.8? Yes, with a 2.5 inch crossover, you're fine. We ran 1 3/4 stuff at 1500 horsepower. You are good to go. Dyno tested long tube headers on a 2.8 liter V6. I saw a lot of those for sale when I was looking at headers, and some inexpensive versions too, which was nice. Got a couple more minutes and we gotta go. Gotta go. Crackly. Racing, but still street use. I was thinking going ported. Yeah, you could put ported 243s or ported 706s or whatever. I have a Camaro LS at like 600 horsepower. Is there an EFI system you recommend? Any of the EFI systems will allow you to make that power. That's going to be a function of the pieces that you pick for your combination. But I use the Holley stuff, and the new Rebel from from Haltech. The Rebel is affordably priced, and it does and will do good stuff too. Cam I have my 4.3 liter is a 210, 215, 112, 500 lift. It's very tame. That's like the cam that I have for this one. The 2.8 does benefit from long tube headers because the stock exhaust is really restrictive. Yeah, I compared it to the shorty headers on this 4.3, but have you ever built your own carburetor? I've never built a blow-through carb. Thanks for all the horsepower help. 2.7 exhaust isn't that bad. Those are good motors. I like that. They sure make a lot more power. Well, at least the 4.2 liter Atlas motor makes a lot more NA power than the 4.3 liter V6 does. Oh, excuse me. It's a long day. 2 more minutes. Two minutes more. To make sure I take my note with me to measure that stuff so I have it from a video, my video. Get those questions in. 2.5 or 3.0. 2.5, 2.25 inch exhaust. Don't forget the like button. Dang it. We're doing good on that though. 67. Oh, 71 and 64. Holley Sniper is pretty inexpensive. Plug and play. Speedway has their own deal. Cool. Most guys are choosing that stuff based on whatever features that they have, whatever kind of thing that they're building. They'll all give you the right air fuel and timing to make the power. So do you need more data logging and stuff? How user-friendly is the, you know, like the interface and tuning and stuff? Running a Terminator X to my 93 Mustang. No issues, that's good. We've used the Holley HP stuff here for a long time. We've had good luck with it. And now I'm going to try the Rebel. I've heard people putting in EFI systems they can never get to run correctly. it's sometimes hard to make the EFI setup do all of the things that the carburetor just does sometimes. Of course, if you have a long runner wanting to flow air on the EFI manifold, carburetor is not really an option for that. And on that note, it's back to dyno testing for me. More 4.3 stuff, so I can head home and do some more videos and stuff. That'll be awesome. I'll see you guys all tomorrow. Big finger up there.